Let me welcome you to episode 10 of our series on trust. I can't believe we've done 10 in the series on trust, and there's more to come because this subject is so important and so all-encompassing in building authentic leadership. My name is Henry Baye, and I'm your host on L2X. In the last 4 episodes, we started chatting through trust behaviors after we laid some foundations about trust. These behaviors, as I mentioned, have been clearly established through research as the ones that the most trusted leaders demonstrate. Now, so far, we've spoken about forthrightness, transparency, demonstrating respect, keeping commitment, the practice of accountability, getting better, showing loyalty, and righting wrongs. If you have not seen these series, please take time to listen to them and listen to those nuggets of wisdom. In this chat, we're dealing with 2 more behaviors, confronting reality and clarifying expectations. The biggest question is, what roles do these play in building trust? Come along with me and let's explore this together. On the subject of confronting reality, one of the most intriguing scenarios of life is politics. Recently, I watched the president of a certain country deliver a speech after his party had overwhelmingly lost an election on account of the state of the economy and other factors. I was looking out for the president to confront reality and show his vulnerability around what has gone wrong. But instead, he decided to put a spin on what he thought was the reality and sought to paint a picture of what he thought was going well. As you would expect, he got boos rather than an applause. One of the most rewarding experiences of my career has been my involvement with labor unions. In 3 out of the 3 organizations I've worked for, I was always involved either as chairman of the Standing Joint Committee, as we call them, or a key member of the management side of the negotiating team. Typically, relationships with unions in many organizations tend to be an us and them relationship, where the unions decide not to trust anything the management said and only sought the best they can get out of the organization, whilst on the other hand, the management wanted to hold back as much as they could hold back. This always created terribly toxic negotiations that what could be resolved in a few days took months. On 2 occasions when I have shared these negotiations, we closed negotiations in 1 or 2 sittings. One of the behaviors I found very powerful in those interactions was facing reality. When unions find that management sees the reality of the difficulties they face and shows transparently the challenges of the organization, trust can be built. In fact, in some cases, we could even get the leadership of the unions to be the ones to champion productivity initiatives. One of my favorite bosses once told me, "Let bad news get to me faster than good news." It was at first something I struggled with, as I always thought that sharing bad news meant that I was failing. However, I found that sharing bad news quickly and owning up to the reality of what was wrong rather helped build trust. There was a job I once held, and when I first took over the job, the control environment was fraught with many issues. The culture at the time was one where we found it difficult to unearth issues and deal with them, as we thought we would be seen as not doing a good job. 3 years into the role, we were audited and there were hardly any issues identified. By far, the most significant thing we did was to confront the reality of the situation, unearth all the issues, place them on record, and put up plans, some of them multi-year plans, and fix the issues. This restored trust and led to some major decisions, which also led to growth. Sometimes, instead of facing reality, people bury their head in the sand like an ostrich or just skirt around issues, avoiding them as opposed to facing them. Some others pretend to be facing the issues. Often, in a meeting, you would hear phrases like the elephant in the room or sacred cows. These are the issues we tend to avoid rather than face. Some people too only prefer to be bearers of good news and always leave the bad news for someone else to deal with, and often it is their subordinates. These behaviors only breed distrust. When we confront reality, it facilitates open interactions, fast achievement, and actually we get others involved with us in resolving the issues rather than facing them alone. Confronting reality helps you to get the necessary information quickly and then be able to act fast on what needs to be done. Some people take the issue of facing reality as a license to be negative all the time or even become cynical. That does not breed trust either, especially when others show that it can be done at the time they say otherwise. The next behavior is one of clarifying expectations, and it is so important. In romantic relationships, one of the commonest concepts is the concept of love language. I'm sure you've heard that before. Love language is basically what each party in the relationship expects the other party to do as an expression of love. This, of course, results in lots of unclarified expectations. The other regular source of conflict is not having roles and responsibilities clarified properly in marriage relationships. Clarifying the expectations is about agreeing upfront what the exact outcome is before action begins. This helps avoid guessing or assuming. The common adage, if you do not know where you are heading, any road leads there, comes to mind readily. There are many scenarios where someone is busy doing something with great excitement with the assumption that they had the instructions right, only for the person they are doing it for to get very disappointed at the outcome. And one of the questions I've found very helpful to discuss at the start of every new working relationship is the question, what are your expectations of me? Whether we know it or not, in every relationship and interaction, there are expectations. When I was growing up as a child, I was told a story which played on some words, and it goes like this. One day, the king had an important task to be performed, so he summoned everybody. He told everybody about the task, and everybody left. Everybody expected somebody to do the task, but somebody thought that everybody will carry out the task. As nobody was tasked to do the task, it was only nobody who got the task done in the end. It is important to clarify all the details of what a task involves, almost like what we call an idiot's guide, and define very clearly what success looks like. We must be clear what is expected of who and at what point and who is responsible for the overall outcome. Timelines as well must be agreed. This helps increase the chances of achieving results and building trust around what expectations are. One of the biggest issues for expectations is assumptions. It is always important to keep an eye on setting realistic expectations also. While setting aspirational expectations helps to get people to dig deeper and deliver on their higher potential, unrealistic expectations can also create room for despair, unethical behavior, which in turn can destroy trust. So a clear balance needs to be found between setting high aspirations and avoiding unrealistic expectations. So let me end this chat with a quick thought. Not being truthful about reality or putting a spin on it, whether it is personal relationships or work relationships or even in relationships with clients and the public, does not make one's reputation better. It only undermines trust. One of my favorite PR case studies are those of oil companies and when there is an oil spill. Here are some of the best examples of how not confronting reality and taking responsibility can horribly go wrong. In my next chat, I'll be handling a couple more trust behaviors, and you don't want to miss that finale on the trust behaviors. So here is what you need to do to get a front seat when we release the next episode. First, subscribe to this channel. Click that notification button. Like and comment and get more people seeing the video and share it as widely as you can. You have my permission to share it. And if you have any questions or reflections, please share them with us. As always, I am Henry Baye, your host on the Lead to Exceed chat. See you soon.